Happy July 4th, Independence Day. And so I'd like to read something in regards to slavery. It is at a time when Martin O'Malley was governor, joining Resolution 1, Senate joining Resolution 6, a Senate joining Resolution concerning slavery in Maryland. Now I want you all to pay very, very close attention. Pay attention. For the purpose of expressing regret for the role that Maryland played in instituting and maintaining slavery, and for the discrimination that was slavery's legacy. I'd like to repeat that for some of you who aren't good at hearing or interpreting or listening. Slavery in Maryland. For the purpose of expressing regret for the role that Maryland played in instituting and maintaining slavery, and for the discrimination that was slavery's legacy. Whereas the state of Maryland relied on slavery for 200 years, and whereas to meet the needs of its economy, Maryland prior to 1808 imported men, women, and children torn from their homes in Africa and subjected to the brutality of the Middle Passage. And whereas Maryland citizens trafficked in human flesh until the adoption of the Constitution of 1864. And whereas slavery subjected its victims to unspeakable cruelties, including beatings, rape, and the forcible separation of family members from one another. Whereas slavery subjected its victims to unspeakable cruelties, including beatings, rape, and the forcible separation of family members from one another. And whereas a native of Maryland, nurtured by the slave culture of our state, wrote the Supreme Court's Dred Scott decision declaring African Americans incapable of citizenship because they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect. Do you understand that? Do you understand that a settler came on the land and wanted to decide to tell the native what rights he had, or what rights the white man can interpret as right, or what rights the white man actually created to give him that he can later take back because he gave it to him. But the white man, the pale Eurasian, which is what he really is, just says there is no African American. We're going to discuss that. Whereas slavery fostered a climate of oppression, not only for slaves and their descendants, but also for people of color who moved to Maryland subsequent to slavery's abolition. And whereas slavery's legacy has afflicted the citizens of our state down to the present, and whereas slavery and discrimination are utterly contrary to the principles that this nation and this state profess, and whereas it is time for the state of Maryland to acknowledge the role the state played in maintaining the institution of slavery and its attendant evils, now therefore be it. 2007 Laws of Maryland. J.R. 1. Resolved by the General Assembly of Maryland that the state of Maryland expresses profound regret for the role that Maryland played in instituting and maintaining slavery, and for the discrimination that was slavery's legacy, and be it further resolved that the state of Maryland commits itself to the formation of a more perfect union among its citizens regardless of color, creed, or race, and be it further resolved that the state of Maryland recommits itself to the principle that all people. Now, what I would like you to pay attention to, this is in 2007, people. And I'm going to put it up here for you to see it for yourself. Okay? Now, this next part, which is why I took the pause to talk, is crossed out because this is what the deceiving master of manipulator, this is what they do. It is almost as if it is there. I show you, I tell you, but it is no longer there. I didn't tell you that. Resolve that the state of Maryland recommits itself to the principle that all people, and it is crossed out, are equal and equally endowed with inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Which is it crossed out? Quote, are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Signed by the President and the Speaker, May 8th, 2007. Now, we're going to go to the dictionary. And I'm going to define the word inalienable and unalienable. And I am going to define God and white man for you. God. From the Webster's Dictionary of 1828, the Supreme Being, Jehovah, the eternal and infinite Spirit, the Creator and the Servant of the universe. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. John 4:24. Everything after that is a man-made definition to deceive you because they want a loophole. Okay? Now, white is used as an adjective in 1828 in this Webster Dictionary because white is not a person. It's not a race. It's not a racial group. It's not a cultural group. White is just a status that was stolen. And a man so manipulative and deceptive thought that it would be very easy to do because this man, in fact, and men, in fact, thought that they can manipulate anyone if they just change the word and its meaning. And so people's words are very important. Inalienable. Listen carefully. Cannot be legally or justly changed. Alienated or transferred to another. However, it will go and tell you, unless one renders such a right to someone else or the authority of legislature is rendered or given. Which means, if someone in a position of authority, or Congress, or legislature, in our days here, okay, because we can refer to this term, legislature, believes that you don't need an inalienable right, or that they don't see that a right even exists, that you don't even have one. Unalienable. Not alienable. That cannot be alienated or transferred as unalienable. Unalienable rights can and are interfered with by a legislature by Eurasians, people that quote unquote call themselves white people these days. They are utilizing a quote unquote legal system they created for their own intent to create inalienable rights for themselves in a foreign land when they settled in territories and created their United States for their own purposes and intent, no one else's consideration, which is obvious. Started 1776, and they were creating laws to enslave people. In 1789, okay? And laws in 1790 to ensure that any slave that thought they were going to run off or leave the master would be murdered. Now God is Yahweh. It's not to be misconstrued with a Eurasian man all of a sudden manipulating, confusing you, putting you in the delusion of a life into believing that he is your God, your high authority, the creator of all things. He can't even build a goddamn house that will stand. That's for a reason. That's in scripture too. And so what I believe about the whole thing is that these people have devised a very grandiose strategy of convincing people that there is a need for them, that they have a good intent when they absolutely don't. That is to restrict the other's will or interest in fighting or standing in the oppositional position because they know they can't win that way. And so systematically, they manipulate things, but if you pay attention, everything is contradictory and does not make sense. Because they say one thing and then right after they'll say something else that contradicts the very thing that they just said. And they can't help themselves because they're just bad intended. And so they need to be held accountable and liable for everything that they are doing in this day. They are not God. They cannot give us unalienable rights. That's something we were born with, just all of us, each of us, equally. When you start to constrict yourself to people's inalienable rights, the rights this one group of people have created, that you already know the history and what it has done to you and what the purpose of it all is, you continue to allow these people to harm you and treat you less than a dog. And they don't even know how to behave as human beings themselves. There wouldn't be a battle amongst nations right now in such a modern day. And so what I want to say to you people is that slavery is still here. And it's here because the language and the context, the people who are in legislature, the people who are in Congress, these people have an interest to keep you slaved and to utilize people for labor. They have been losing money because they have been having to spend the money to pay for employees. They have been having to spend money. Then they have to utilize the fake credit system, and they run that up too. And then they manipulate the loan system and run that up too, and borrow money from every family member and anyone who would give it to them. And they use that all up too. It shows that there is a pattern of something very wrong with this cultural group of people. And so why should all the rest of our lives be in their hands when we know very well they don't have the competence to deal with their own? We don't need to be backtracking. And anyone who knows better, don't go back. You're going to go back to an abusive relationship. You're going to go back in a household full of torment, travesties, when there is another option, or there should be. Something's wrong here. And so I say to you, even the state, like Maryland, that says it wants to stand up and stand out and wants to do the right thing and apologize, and they're always good at saying the right thing to keep everybody at bay. They're always good at saying what needs to be said so that there is no war or no fight coming from the other end so that they can ambush you. Where's Doug Lewis? Charles Barkley, come on now. Sir, wake up, pound, pay attention. Okay? Pound race. Pound can we live? Pound get up. Pound stand up. Pound pink soldiers. Okay? Now, I don't play games like that with people. Okay? Now, here's the thing. What does the word right mean? Straight. A right line in geometry. In morals and religion. Just, equitable, according to the standard of truth and justice or the will of God. Yahweh. That alone is right in the sight of Yahweh, which is consonant to his will or law, this being the only perfect standard of truth and justice, which is right. That's what rights mean. In social and political affairs, that is right, which is consonant to the laws and customs of a country, provided these laws and customs are not repugnant to the laws of Yahweh. A man's intentions may be right, though his actions may be wrong in consequence of a defect in judgment. Fit, suitable, proper, becoming. There's no room to misconstrue what right is, even in its adjective form. America, the Americas, we must get together. We must stand, we must rise for the sake of our legacies and our offspring, and for all that we have put into this world, this earth. And why allow one hateful, terroristic group, people, destroy it? We must do the right thing. It is Yahweh's will. And so I want to tell people that slavery has never been the way. But we are dealing with a society of people that think that it's a joke. The Bill Gates and societies, CEOs, CFOs, and these Microsofters, and these window programmers, and these Facebookers, and these YouTube people. These people who have figured out a way to systematically, strategically utilize our entertainment, utilize our creativity, our ingenuity, our ability to be so innovative, and to monetize off of us, and for them to be on a platform and running the platform and sitting there with Congress and sounding stupid and ridiculous, knowing that they're stealing and spying on people. And we are supposed to be so conditioned to be so ignorant and stubborn-minded to the reality. These people have been getting away with that for too long. And it's time to stop it. It is failing all of us. People are so confused and living in delusion. They are killing themselves to get themselves off of this earth. That is a problem. That's not right. And while they're doing that, we have a government willingly, acceptingly violating all treaties and all laws. Their own laws they created as well. To violate us and our people and our land and our soil and our children, our offspring, our property, our land, and our rights. Unalienable rights, which cannot be alienated, are inalienable, given to me by a pale Eurasian immigrant. That doesn't make sense, people. It doesn't make sense. If you're not happy where you've settled, if you don't find happiness with the inhabitants, you take your shit, you take your offspring, you take your ideas and whatever you have, your skill set, and take it back to your motherland and your late nation, and you leave us right here in the Northeast, where we belong. You don't just come somewhere and ambush, infiltrate, settle, and lay lazy and think it's okay for you to just delegate and to just be so ineffective, inefficient, inept, just an awful nigger of a human being. It is absurdly ridiculous. Absurdly ridiculous. And so what I'm saying to you people is to be more open-minded. Because no, it's not okay for people to be spying and molesting and being sadistic to a vulnerable society that already believes someone is watching, that is already suffering from paranoia because someone may be listening. Someone may be wanting to harm me. So is it wrong for people to be feeling that way when we are clearly seeing every day we are paying for this service? They are charging us to watch them manipulate and destroy the world in a modern day. It is beyond a delusion and a danger that none of us can afford. And everyone by now should be paying attention that the pill Eurasian is a very disturbed mind. And no one should want anything to do with it. Because none of us want war. Not in North Korea, not in any country. United States, of course not. But what have we become now? But a war-torn nation all over again. After all the progress and all the deaths and all the sacrifice, people have sacrificed their lives where they didn't raise their kids. System didn't even give a fuck about their kids. System murdered their kids. Conditioned their kids never to even pick up in their footsteps. Come on, people. You have to stop believing in a system and a set of people in a group, a cultural group of people that are damned and damning. A group of people that are interfering in the perceptions of people through our utilization of devices. From everything we want to do now with these devices, these electronic equipment, they have figured out a way to ask us for permissions. And these are just regular apps, we just trying to type up a paper. I got to give a corporation permission to go into my SD card, transfer my stuff, contents of my SD card. Do you realize what they have us doing all day long? They are so ignorant and stubborn-minded of a culture of people, they really expect everyone else to behave the same way. You're going to go to hell for following in these people's footsteps. Now, I'm going to tell you that. See, I am who I am. And I am being forbidden to be who I am. And I refuse to be a slave. Because I am no man's slave. I am a woman with children, a creative life. I don't do in vitro or artificial insemination. I've dealt with the turmoil, the travesties, and the reality of my own life. Having children, sacrifice, giving a life, the possibility of it going and you having to live without it. And not being able to live in a delusional state. Because then I would be lost and damaged in such a way where I could not come back from that. Heal past that. But yet I stand. And I rise. And I rise. And I tell you to do the same. Because I wouldn't tell you to do something that I would not do. Matter of fact, I would do things that I wouldn't even ask of one. And so I tell you to take a position of authority, or you choose to be a slave that will burn in a lake of fire, or you choose to stand upright as a human being, as Yahweh put us here to be, and you stand as a master over all things, in complete control over you. And where you end up, it is okay. No matter where that is, as long as you have taken you with you. And you have been faithful and true to you. And so understand that there is states and a union and a united continental Congress that still exist to hurt us. And so we have to be stronger. Baby. I know my ears are.